Okay guys, this video is going to be all about Maths Paper 1, more specifically for Edexcel. Okay, so Edexcel A-level Maths Paper 1, let's go. So hopefully you're well familiar with these videos. If you do bio and chem, you may have seen my content on the topic analysis videos. If not, it's all good. But I'm going to talk to my subscribers for a little bit here. So I made this poll a couple weeks ago where I asked you which paper analysis you want next. And you guys, by majority, 54%, voted for Bio Paper 3. Now, I took a look at the exam dates, right? The exam timetable. And Edexcel Maths Paper 1, I think, was June 4th. June 4th, yeah. So about 2 weeks away from the time of recording this video. And Bio Paper 3 is a lot further away than that. So I thought I better not violate these maths people, and if it takes me so long to make these videos and go through all the papers and then double check that I did it correctly, that it would just be way too late. So yeah, did Maths Paper 1 first. I'm gonna do my best as well to do OCR Bio Paper 1. Gonna chunk into that as soon as possible. I'm about halfway through Bio Paper 3, so that's gonna be coming kind of soon. But don't be surprised if one of this comes first, because again, Bio Paper 1 for OCR is a lot sooner than AQA Bio Paper 3. I'm trying to keep things fair. I know my audience is majority AQA, but yeah, just be understanding of all the other exam board dudes and dudettes that watch my videos. So with that out of the way, let's give a special shout out to these guys. So these are some YouTubers for maths, A-level maths, super good right here. And yeah, I used them to make this video because it's been a hot minute, guys, since I did A-level maths. So I had to refresh my brain, take it all in, and make sure that I was looking at each question and be like, okay, this is under this subtopic, this topic, etc. So these guys were super helpful for that. More specifically, these top three right here, Mr. Asprey, really good content. TL Maths, absolute go. He's got some great content on there. Bison Maths, some great content, really good at explaining stuff. And then I found this Zishan guy yesterday. And he was cracking me up, man. So the way he just teaches and speaks was so funny. So I thought I'd chuck him in there as well for you guys that want to use some channels. These are just some suggestions, and particular shout out to these three right here. Cool. So with that out of the way, I wanna emphasize something. So the point of this video, if you haven't seen my bio and chem analysis videos, this is not a predicted paper video. Okay, I'm not psychic. I cannot predict the future. Okay, all I'm doing is looking at patterns from the previous 6 paper 1s, so 2018 to 2023. That's what I'm doing in this video, and that's what I've done for my bio and chem videos. Okay, so really understand that. I'm not predicting this. I'm just saying this is what has happened. Is there a high likelihood of it happening again? Yes, there is, in my opinion, because exams are a game, okay? You really need to understand that exams are a game. They're designed with specific rules, okay? And there's going to be topics that come up more often than not due to favoritism, whether they're just longer topics that take more time to learn, whether they're more difficult, whether they demonstrate a specific part of the specification that they need to tick off the box for you to learn, etc. There is going to be favoritism. So we'll look into that a little bit more when we come onto the topics and subtopics. But I really wanted to give that disclaimer. I'm not psychic. All right, cool. So I want you to become a castle. Okay, this is an analogy. Don't literally jump out the window and become a castle. I'll explain this a little bit more. Okay, so maths abilities stack even more than chemistry and biology. Like something in biology can be completely separate. Whereas maths abilities, the way that you start over here, you're a fresh noob in 6th form, college, whatever, in year 12, you jump into maths and you're like, very basic stuff, okay? You do year 12, things are going okay, and you get to year 13. And that's where you start to do the basic year 13, year 2 stuff, whether you call it year 1, year 2, whatever. That's where you do the basic stuff. But you're going to struggle with the year 13 basics if you haven't already understood and learned the year 12 fundamentals, okay? So that is going to stack into year 13 basics, which is going to stack further into year 13 advanced. So really important to understand that maths, outside of any other subject in my head, chemistry stacks quite a bit as well, but maths stacks like nothing else, okay? So the fundamentals are king. You really need to master the year 12 fundamentals and certain aspects of year 13 fundamentals to perform well at all in these papers. Okay, they're very favored towards the more complicated topics. Okay, so when I said become a castle, this year 12 content, like basic differentiation, basic trigonometry fundamentals and stuff, right? Integration, that builds the first layer of your castle, okay? Then you show up to year 13, you learn the basics, year 13, that builds the next layer, okay? So juices are flowing, things are going nice. You practice, physics and maths tutor all the way, and now you're at the top level and you have mastered everything. Okay, you mastered the fundamentals. Now you are the king of the castle, and that is where the A and the A stars live, right at the top of the castle right here. Okay, pretty good analogy, I think. But yeah, really understand that you cannot get to here without first getting to here. Really important, really, really important. So even though certain topics come up more than others, you cannot be like at a D or an E and like have zero fundamentals. You don't even know what's going on, and you try and jump straight into advanced year 13 questions. Not going to have a good time, guys. You're not going to have a good time. Okay, so become a castle and you'll get an A or an A star. Okay, so where are we going next? Right. So paper 1, something I want to mention here is that paper 1 and 2, as I said up here, I sort of forgot to mention this. Paper 1 and 2, are they random? In the sense that you have 10 topics, okay, which go into pure, and they can be dispersed at random amongst paper 1 and paper 2. So that's what they say. Okay, each paper is 2 hours, and it makes up a third of your qualification. So paper 1 is a third, paper 2 is a third, and paper 3 is a third. Pretty simple. They're all out of 100 marks. So the marks are going to be related to 100% when you look at the UMS grade boundaries. So that's not too shabby. But what I want to say is that even though they say that they can ask you any of these questions, which is correct, like look, paper 1 and paper 2 may contain questions on any topics, 100% true. Again, I cannot predict the future, but there are patterns and there is favoritism, and that is very clear when we look at the data of the questions so far, of the papers so far, I should say, from 2018 to 2023. Cool. So I'm going to get into this table a little bit later. I'll link it down in the description below because you may need this when you're looking at my analysis. So like trig fundamentals has come up a certain amount of times. What is involved in trig fundamentals? Right here. Okay. So this is out of the specification. You'll see the specification has the topic like 1, 2, 3, etc. And then it also has the subtopics 1.1, 2.4, 2.7, 8.3, etc. And then I've grouped these further for the purposes of this video into this right here. And these are all like the grouped ones that we're going to look at. Okay. So yeah, link that in the description. Hopefully it's helpful. I've tried to group it as logically as possible, but I'm not perfect. So there we go. You may have some suggestions. If you do, pop me a DM, pop me a comment, all that good stuff. So let's go into the analysis. As I said, you want to become a castle, right? So you'll notice that certain subtopics are missing entirely. All right, and that's basic year 12 stuff like indices, surds, equations of a straight line. This stuff is completely absent because you need that knowledge to answer more advanced questions, but there will not be questions that only involve indices or only involve equations of a straight line, stuff like that. Okay, so understand that and you're good to go. All right, let's look at the topics, some grade boundaries. If you've seen my bio and chem videos, you're going to be well aware of what I'm going to go into next. But if you haven't, I'll try and explain it as clearly as possible. But good old grade boundaries right here. If you're going for an A star, B, whatever you're going for, this gives you an idea of what you need to be aiming for. As we can see here, I don't really have a clue what went on in 2018. And if we jump to 2023, you can see like also in 2019 and 2020, I cannot find the A star grade anywhere. I don't know what is required for the individual paper for these 2 years. If you can find it, pop it in the comments down below and help people out. I wasn't able to find it, so we're going to pretend that didn't happen and ignore it. But as you can see here, jump from 87, then it drops down to like the low 70s. I'm assuming these were also low 70s based on the A grades. And then it shoots up again to 82. So I don't know what happened in these 2 years. It's an anomaly. When I was looking through, I was like, these don't seem that much easier in terms of like to make this much of a difference between here and here. but you never know. But like, even if you look at the A, like you needed 70% to get an A in 2018, then it drops down to 50%. So I'm not sure what happened there. We'll just view that as a weird thing and assume that these are the ones that you want to be looking at. But maybe not, because of COVID. Maybe it screwed things up. I don't know. Maybe you need to be looking more over here. Okay, so maybe do aim for something like this for an A. 67 seems quite high to me, but I don't know. And then obviously, because the average is kind of skewed, I also looked at the median. So for an A, I'm assuming you want to be going around 60%, 55%. Okay, but obviously aim higher if you can. It's always good. So grade boundaries out of the way. Let's look at the topics. So as we can see here, I'll explain this table if you haven't seen it before. So this is super basic. Topic right here, down this column, all color coded. So each color code, you can see all the graphs are color coded. This isn't color coded, that's just random. And then we've got the percentage. So if you weren't aware, as I said, 100 marks per paper, 6 papers, 600 juicy marks right here. And this is just a percentage of those 600 marks. Pretty simple. Frequency, this is just how many papers did that topic come up in. So as we can see here, 6 topics, 6 papers, 6 papers, 6 papers, and it drops down to 4, 5, etc. All right, so that's pretty simple there. Then average marks is just the average marks per paper. So this number divided by this number. Pretty simple. So hopefully this is a good starting point for you guys. If you want to just pause the video, take a screenshot, send it to your friends. If you just want to look at overall topics, which I do advise you to look at overall topics. We're going to go into far more detail. Look at all this. We're going to go into far more detail with the subtopics. But in terms of topics, I would say just learn them as much as possible, particularly because they can just flip-flop things between paper 1 and paper 2. But as you can see here, there is a pattern. So like algebra and functions comes up every single year. Trig comes up every single year, etc. Okay, and then obviously they have, when they do come up, slightly a bit more marks available. So algebra and functions, 17.2 on average, whereas sequence and series and exponentials and logs, even though they come up every single year, also, you've got less marks up for grabs. Okay, so work off this, start at the top, work your way down, and build that castle. All right, cool. So I'm going to give you a quick example here of these two papers. So just pick them at completely random, 2019 and 2020 Maths Paper 1. What topics came up and how many marks did they receive? So feel free to skip ahead if you've watched Chem and Bio and you know what I'm going to say. But if you haven't, this is quite helpful, I think. So y-axis is the marks available for each topic. X-axis is topic. Column is just the color-coded topic, right? And then what we have here is this dashed red box signifies how many marks you needed to achieve to get an A, essentially, if you got all the marks available for a specific topic. Okay, so if we look at the grade boundaries here, this is for 2019, you needed 56 to get an A. If you add these 3 respective topics together, you get 58 marks, so you get an A, essentially, if you knew them like an absolute king and you got them all right, and then you can just ignore these, close your paper, etc. Similar for 2020, right? We have 53 marks over here. If you got these 3 topics 100%, as in if you answered the questions 100%, you got everything right, you would get 56 marks. That crosses the threshold for an A. Scribble this out, close your paper, done. Okay, obviously you don't want to close your paper and all that stuff. You want to attempt every single question, show all your marking, all that basic knowledge. But this is just to exemplify like how high yield topics can boost your grade drastically if you master them. You can also notice here that the topics are similar at the top, like towards the higher end of the mark scale, but they are different year by year, okay? So that's why you have to look at all the papers so far. And I think, honestly, that is why they changed the specification. I think it's because once you get to like the 7th, the 8th, the 9th paper, there are so many resources available from past papers that the papers are just naturally going to get easier because the questions have been done so many times. Okay, and there's people like me and plenty of other YouTubers that go through this, maybe not this stuff exactly, but they go through past papers and they help you out. Okay, so that's my opinion of why the grade boundary will get higher or the paper will get more difficult and stuff like that. Okay, so this is just as a visual representation of this table, just focusing on the marks for you guys that are a bit more visual, and you can sort of take a screenshot of this and be like, okay, I need to master algebra, trig, integration, differentiation, sequence of series, etc. And obviously down here, you've got all these three right here, which aren't that big when it comes onto paper one. All right, hopefully that's clear. Now, something interesting to note here is that even though I said things change year after year, let me get my pen back. If we look at algebra and functions was the highest for 2019, it's also the highest overall. Let's rub this out. It's also the highest overall for all 6 papers. Integration was the highest, second highest here, sorry, and it's also amongst the top highest overall. Trigonometry was the third highest, second highest overall. Trigonometry was the first highest in 2020, second highest overall. Sequence and series was the second highest. It's the fifth, interesting, fifth highest overall. Integration was the third highest, and it's the third highest overall. So you can see that even though they changed year to year slightly, the high yield topics don't really change, okay, as we can see here. Okay, so take advantage of this table and we'll look into the subtopics. Remember, guys, if you don't take anything else from this video, become a castle, okay? And you'll see that here is that the most marks that are available in an A-level maths paper are going to be that advanced year 13 and some of the basic year 13 stuff. But to answer those advanced questions, you need the knowledge from the year 12, from the basic year 13, etc. I know I'm sort of rinsing this analogy, but it's really good and you really need to understand it, particularly for maths, okay? So again, I'll sort of zoom in a little bit and you can take a screenshot and send that to your mates. You can screenshot in and work through it. Again, like I said, guys, the subtopics that I've used for this video are not necessarily like obvious straight away. Sometimes they are, like this one, product, quotient, and chain rule, exactly what you need to do. But if you're not aware, I've listed all the content, and this is directly from the Edexcel textbook if you use that, or you can YouTube the topic title, the topic content, sorry. You can look it up on online resources, whatever it may be. But I'll put a link in the description for this document, and you can sort of work through it if you need it, if things aren't that obvious. So for example, if we look at like further differentiation, that's going to be some of the differentiation that's like on level 2. Where do we have further differentiation? Here is going to be right here. So there's a ton of stuff that goes into that, right? And it's all there. Okay. Then you have like 5.1 trig fundamentals. It's going to be all this stuff right here. Okay. Just as an example. So let's go back to this table. Let's rub this out. And you have to think to yourself, where should I focus my revision? I have a limited amount of time. You want to focus your subtopic specifically. Even though this is topic right here, you want to look at the subtopic and think, okay, product, quotient, and chain rule, exponential and logarithmic modeling. These have both come up every single year. What are the chances of it coming up in 2024? Pretty damn high, if you ask me. Again, I'm not a psychic, but I'm a betting man, so that'll be my bet that they come up this year. So if you don't know product, quotient, and chain rule in Edexcel A-level Maths, you're gonna struggle. The modeling, I don't know why, but Edexcel just got absolutely nuts for modeling. They love it for logarithmic modeling and exponential modeling. And that involves like all of the knowledge required for exponentials and logarithms, but just applying it to sort of like real world problems. Hopefully you know what this is. If you don't, go to Physics and Math Tutor and look up some modeling problems. From there, you've obviously got integration. Now, I've grouped this quite drastically. Integration by substitution, parts, reverse chain rule, and partial fractions. It's missed a year, but I assume that the year it was missed, the same with circles, that came up in paper 2. So definitely do this level of integration and learn the circles as well. Trig identities and equations, make sure you know this, even though it only came up 4 times. Just doing those trig questions, it's kind of obvious. You need to practice these trig questions, these trig equation questions, and you need to know the identities and be able to use them fully. So what else have we got here? Area under a curve, limit of sum. Even though this guy right here has only come up twice, I don't know how many times it come up in paper 2. Honestly, I haven't looked at paper 2 yet, but I'll do a video on that. And then maybe a cheeky combined video if I have time, where it's got 13 marks on average. So a really high yield topic, even though it hasn't come up that often in paper 1. it's a lot of marks. So try and learn that. It's going to be super useful when it comes on to paper 2 as well, because if it doesn't come up in paper 1, I'm assuming it comes up in paper 2, because it is a large part of the specification in terms of the amount of marks available in a question. There's quite a lot of working that needs to be done here. Trig fundamentals come up every single year. Make sure you learn that. That's like the year 1 trig. I sort of went through it just there. A little bit of year 2 as well, but yeah, mainly year 1 stuff there. And we've got proof. Proof has come up pretty much every time, but again, it's only 5 marks on average when it does come up. So if you're not that great at proof, you kind of dodge that bullet. It depends, up to you. Try and learn everything, like I said, become a castle. But you got to think like really critically when it comes on to how much time you have, especially if you're at like a C and you need an A. You need to take advantage of all the time you have. Algebraic modeling, again, modeling. They love modeling, so make sure you give that a go. Series, do your best to learn all the series, because I don't know if it comes up in paper 2 that much, but I'm assuming it does. But geometric, arithmetic series, learn that shizzle, and recurrence relations, learn that as well. Even though it's only come up twice, yeah, just keep that in mind. Obviously, if you can, focus on geometric for the purposes of paper 1, because this come up 4 times. I won't spend too much longer in this table. Hopefully, it's pretty self-explanatory. Do whatever you want with it. But it should give you more of like a target to focus on in terms of where you want to spend the majority of your time, which should be somewhere around here in terms of like mastering, just absolutely mastering it. And then don't take this for granted either, because even though algebra and functions is like all the way down here in terms of the subtopics, when you add them all together, because there's so many little minor subtopics within algebra and functions, it actually adds up to the overall highest topic. So keep that in mind. This is different to chem and bio. I'd say use the topic table first and then work your way down to sort of fine tune, looking at specific sections of that topic. That would be my advice, but do whatever you want. All right, some final tips, some final juicy tips for you guys. So if you are going for that A, the A star, even if you're going for a B, do all the past papers, guys. I've tutored people in the past that are going for like medicine and stuff, and there'll be a week in between our tutor lessons. And they'll be like, "Yo, man, what's going on? Did you do a past paper in the week? Did you do any past papers in the week that we since our last lesson?" And they'd be like, "Oh no, man, like I was playing FIFA." And so it's like, no, you need to do past papers. You can't just magic your way into uni without doing past papers. Like I always say, exams are a game. How do you expect to get good at the game if you don't practice the game? And the game is the past papers, okay? The exam papers. So do your best to every single year, more than once if you need to. You honestly have no excuses. If you say you want an A or an A star as your goal, but you haven't done all the past papers, like what are you doing? Okay, that's the first point here. If you're confident with the content, like you're really good at all this or all this, not all of it, but if you're confident and you're feeling good and you're getting A's most of the time, that's where you really need to do time conditions. Like do the entire 2-hour paper, time conditions, and that is where you can improve your time management. Okay, that's what you want to do there. You can do it first if you want, but if you struggle with the content, in my mind, there's no point timing it. But yeah, you really want to do time conditions closer to the exam. Make a log of your mistakes. This is so important. Again, not too many people do this, but the ones that do actually do it make such a difference with their grade. So I might make just like a template for you guys to use, like a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet or something. For you to use, because if you don't know how to make it yourself, it may be a bit confusing. Like, what do I mean by make a log of your mistakes? So what you'd have, like, let's just say a quick example. So what you'd have is you'd have like one for maths, right? Good old one for maths. Then you'd have one for your other subjects, one for your other subject. If you do 4 subjects, whatever. First column would be the paper year or the paper itself. So for example, like paper 1, 2018 or whatever, right? Paper 1, 2022, paper 3, 2021, whatever it is, right? The paper and the year. Then you'd have the question that you got incorrect. I don't know, 4B or whatever it is, right? All the way down. All these questions, you're keeping a log of it. You can keep a log of the topic. So integration, trigonometry, even the subtopic if you want to go to that level of detail. You can even keep a column of like the marks. So the marks that you got. So let's say it was a 6-mark question, but you got 3 marks. And you can think, I'm not an absolute loser at this question. Like I got half the marks available, but where did I actually lose the marks? And then have another column of like comments, like I lost marks because of X, Y, and Z. And that way it just cements it in your brain and you're more aware of your mistakes, and that way you can improve. Okay, so if you want something like this, let me know and I'll maybe make one for you guys. But hopefully you guys are doing this already. If you are going for an A or A star, it helps so much. Some people don't do it, but I think why not? Like it doesn't take that much time. If you have to go through and mark your past papers anyway, you may quickly note down the questions that you got wrong, why you got them wrong, etc. And then like, let's say you got 0 out of 6 marks. Like you want to focus on that mistake first before you focus on the 3 out of 6 marks, because you're clearly just not getting something for this sort of question. And it's gonna help you a lot. And I'll stop rambling and move on to the next point. Obviously, when you identify the topics that you're making a mistake with, right? And whatever those topics or subtopics may be, you go to Physics and Maths Tutor or any sort of similar website. This is the website I would use, Physics and Maths Tutor, and look for that specific topic and do questions on that. Okay, most of the time it's actually going to be the questions that you get wrong, because they're just taking exam papers and sort of dividing them into topics. So you may be repeating questions, but that's completely fine. Just keep banging them out, just keep grinding them, and you will improve. Next up is make Anki flashcards of your mistakes. So this is a bit advanced. You don't have to do this. It's very similar to like the log of your mistakes. It wouldn't be a typical flashcard in the terms of like question is this, answer is this, and you have to memorize it. It's more like I have a deck of my mistake questions. So the question side of the card would be question 2, 2019, for example, and the reverse of the answer side of the card would be the mark scheme with some notes of like what you struggled with, what you understand, what you don't understand. Okay, so this is a bit advanced, but it can help you. And then over time, as you repeat this deck, you don't have to rely on Physics and Maths Tutor. You create your own custom deck of questions that you find difficult. And you sort of work your way through it, and with time, the deck will get smaller and you will go up the castle, okay? So that's a really useful one as well. And then again, some people really struggle with like just basic memorizing. They're a lot more skilled at problem solving and things that are and that side of maths, but they're not so great at remembering like basic laws, identities, a formula you need to remember that aren't in the formula booklet, stuff like that. And you can definitely use Anki for this, or any sort of like cheat sheet or something, just so you go over that and you don't forget the stuff you need to know. Okay, so that's just some final tips. I really hope you found this video helpful. I'm going to do one for paper 2. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, because they take so long, but I'm going to do my best to get it out as soon as possible. Best of luck with your revision, guys. Not long left till paper 1, but let's go. Let's hope it goes well. Until next time, peace.